Welcome to Live from my drum room. It's good to be back. My guest is my old friend, legendary drummer Denny Seiwell. Denny was the original drummer for Paul McCartney and Wings, but he's had a long and prolific career as a session drummer in addition to his work with Paul McCartney. And it's all chronicled in his book, and this is his book. It's almost out. It's The Best and Worst of Times. It's co-written by my other very dear friend, Robin Flans, who's written many, many great books on drummers and other people. And it's available through Hudson Music. Who else? All my friends at Hudson. You can order it now. It's available for pre-order. The Best and Worst of Times. It's really such a great read. And you might remember I had Denny as a guest back in March of 2023 for a Track Talk episode where we talked about Uncle Albert and Live and Let Die. So be sure to check that out. It's episode 130. But now it's my great pleasure to welcome back to Live from my drum room, my dear friend, Denny Seiwell. Denny.
Hey, how are you, man? Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Congratulations on this book. I love it. Man, I've known you so long. I knew a lot of these stories, a good number, but there's a whole bunch that I didn't know. And people need to buy this book because every page, there's like 10 stories. And I remember talking to you before you came on my last podcast, and you said to me something like, I got a lot of stories. And you do.
A lot out too, though. I did. I must say, this book was meant to be uplifting and positive, and so if you're buying it to hear all the Keith Moon stories, not so much.
No.
I'm trying to really make this about some hope for people that are struggling out there, and what curves life can throw you if you're serious about the music business and stuff like that. So that's why in fact, we were writing it, and I was just remembering all the stories I could remember, which I'm amazed. So was Robin. Robin was amazed at that too. She said, her memory is fully intact, although at times you could tell me that I'm crazy. But anyway, we did the stories, and then we said, now how can we make this really mean something? And she said, well, I think the title should be The Best and Worst of Times. So
yeah. I think that's very apropos because you really get into some really deep stuff. I mean, it's not all the good times, and I God bless you for bearing your soul the way you do in this book and just really laying it out there.
Thank you.
It's deep. It's deep, but we don't want people to come away thinking it's all that either. I mean, there's so much. There's a lot of funny stories, many funny stories. And, I want to start. I mean, you start the book going way back to your history before you joined Paul McCartney and Wings, and you had a great career as a session drummer in New York. You had a career in the military and in the Navy, and then in the band, and then later when you got to New York, you feet first jumped in and were a session drummer. And maybe talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about how you got to. I think the audition with Paul is a great story too. So,
well, I mean, thanks. I did an extra year in the 11th grade. I should tell everybody that. I was a good student, so I did an extra year and repeated the 11th grade. And when because my grades were crap, I just thought, I really wanted to go to Curtis Institute of Music or a music school, but my grades wouldn't allow. And then I heard about the Navy School of Music, so I went there, and a guy took an audition, went down to Washington, D.C., took an audition, got in there. It's only 6 months of school, but I was there for like a year and a half. They put me in a special band that went to South America and everything. And they cram a 4-year college education into you in 6 months, actually. And then from there, I went to a couple of different stations. I was in Chicago, Great Lakes, and I was in the south of France, where I met my wife, and I'm still married to her 58 years later. And she's a big part of this book too. But yeah, I got out of the service and went to. I was going to go to Chicago. I was working in a drum shop in Waukegan, and as a teacher, and they became like parents to me, and I think they And they were actually talking about leaving the business to me. So I thought that was where we'd go. And then by happenstance, I heard about a jam session back in my hometown of Lehighton, Pennsylvania, a little burg in Pennsylvania, close to Allentown. I heard about a jam session in New Jersey, and at a place called the Tally Ho Tavern in White House, New Jersey. And we drove down, and it was an incredible band. Tony Nicola was the drummer, and John Coates, who really, he was very influential as a piano player. He influenced Keith Jarrett.
Oh man, yeah.
Keith used to come up to the club where he played regularly on Saturday nights and sit in. He'd either play piano, saxophone. He played great soprano saxophone, or drums sometimes. If there wasn't no drummer there, he played drums, and he was an amazing drummer as well. So, and then that was the rhythm section, and the horns were Arnie Lawrence, a great alto player, and Marvin Stamm, a beautiful trumpet player who actually played on Uncle Albert. You know?
Yeah.
And then Bill Watrous, the trombone player, who was also in the Navy band a little ahead of me, but we had that in common. So I went in there and sat in a couple of times over the weeks, the Sundays that it was going on. And they said, "What are you doing up here? Get your ass into the city. You start working right away." And so I didn't take their advice, but I came into the city eventually, and I was welcomed in. I was working up at Mount Airy Lodge in the show band there, and a contractor came up. His name was Russ Savakis. Russ booked a lot of the big sessions in New York, and he was just subbing on bass one night, and he said, "Hey, wow, you really play good. Come into the city. I'll put you in the recording studios." And at the same time, I got the gig at the Half Note with Al Cohn and Zoot Sims, because Mousy Alexander left to go on tour, and he was the house drummer there. And Dave Frischberg, beautiful piano player that I hung out with a lot, he was friends with Zoot. He said, "Go down and play with Zoot. He'll love you, man. You'll get the gig." So I say, "Hey, Zoot, Dave Frischberg sent me down here, and Dave played at the Half Note as well." So Zoot says, "Oh yeah, any friend of Dave's? Yeah, what do you play?" I said, "Drums." He goes, "I hate drummers." Play that night, and he offered me the gig right after this happened. He and Al,
Yeah.
beautiful. And for a year and a half, 2 years, I was a house drummer there with Al and Zoot, with Richie Camucin, Bill Berry, and Anita O'Day, and Drew Moore. We played with a lot of people. I learned a great, valuable lesson about life and jazz in those years. And because of that situation that paid very little money, the guys used to come down on a Sunday night on the night off, and the players would come down and see who's the new kid in town playing with Al and Zoot. And so that's when the session work started happening, and then Russ Savakis kicked in and got me some really good records with John Denver, and I started my career there.
Yeah.
Stop me, please.
No, it's a great history. I got to tell you, I don't know if I ever told you this, Denny, but in the book you talk about how I'm thinking it in my head, and then I read it in the book. It was just so funny where you said a lot of people thought I was an English drummer.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys. I mean, well before I ever met you in the 70s, when I knew who you were as the drummer for Paul McCartney, I assumed, it was an all English band, and yeah.
So the case out here in LA, after I left Wings, when I first moved to LA, they said, "Who is this guy anyway?" They didn't know my New York cast or playing with the orchestras or film scores or any of that. That I was advanced reader, and I could play with orchestras and all that stuff. They didn't know that. And in fact, Leon Russell called me up to work with him for a little while. And Leon said, "Geez, I didn't think I could get you, man." Are you kidding? I would have dropped Paul McCartney like a hot potato to come with.
That's great. Yeah, that was great. So maybe we could fast forward a little bit and talk about you're in New York, you're doing sessions, and you got a phone call?
Yeah. Well, I preface it by, there was a bar that we all hung out at. It was called Jim and Andy's Bar. Andy was his cat, Jimmy Couliveris, And it was on 55th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue. No, between 7th Broadway and 8th Avenue. Yeah.
Yep.
Right, very close to 8th Avenue. And it was 3 steps down, jukebox, long, simple bar. And in the back, you could lock up your instrument. If you had some sessions that were coming around a couple hours later and you wanted to have lunch, or you buy some dope, or you wanted to book a band. Or, there was a phone on the wall. Are you still there? Yeah. There was a wall to radio registry, which was all the session guys had accounts at radio registry, and they knew your book, where you were when people tried to get a hold of you. So radio registry would call over, and Jim would answer the phone, and they'd say, "Hey, is there a trombone player there? Send them over to A&R right away. We need a trombone player," Then trombone player over. But it was just an amazing thing. And Jimmy was the sweetheart of all LA's session musicians. If somebody stole I saw a guy that had his vibe stolen from a club, I guess, or a studio, it might be. But Jim says, well, he was crying and everything. He said, "How much is a set of vibes?" And he said, I don't know, $1,500. Jimmy peeled off $1,500 and gave him the money. He said,
"Wow,
here, go get another set of vibes. And if you don't get a gig, I'll get you a gig, pay me back." That's the kind of a guy he was.
Wow.
So the one day the phone rang. "Hey, can Denny do a demo for Barry Kornfeld?" I said, "Barry Kornfeld? I haven't seen him in years." And I didn't do demos. I was really busy doing 3, 4, 5 sessions a day sometimes. So I said, I just had something that canceled, so why don't I take this? And it was in a brownstone on 43rd Street between 9th and 10th Avenue, kind of a funky neighborhood. So I walk over to the brownstone, and I had my cymbal bag with my Zildjian cymbal bag, and I had a double round tom case with these old Gretsch toms are in here. These guys, the 12-inch tom, 64 Gretches. So I used to put clear heads on them. So anyway, I walk up to the lobby of this building and say, "Hey, is there a studio here?" There's a guy sitting in the lobby behind a desk. He pointed to the basement. I said, "Oh, I'm going to get mugged." So I go down in the basement, and there's a dirt floor basement with a ratty set of drums from Studio Instrument Rentals on a dirt floor. And there's a one chair in the corner of the floor with Paul and Linda both sitting on it. I said, "Hey, you and Paul, look at me." "That's me." So what's up? And he said, "Well, we're coming to town to make a record, and we're looking at some drummers. Would you mind playing for me?" And I said, "I wouldn't mind playing. You got a bass or a guitar or something we could play together?" He said, "No, it's just you." And I think the next line I said was what got me the gig. I said, "Well, I can dig it. I mean, if you can't get it on by yourself, how can you get it on with somebody else?" And it started out light, and he laughed, and I laughed. So I said, "What do you want? Can I put my toms up?" So anyway, he said, "Sure, take a second and put them up." So I put my good toms up, and I started slamming away. Just became Ringo. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Ringo impersonation. He laughed. He said, "How about some shuffle? And how about this?" And he called on some time things to play, and I just gave him some rock and roll beats, And after 10, 15 minutes, we kept it light. We laughed, and we had a good time. And he said, "That's all I need, man. Thanks so much for coming down." And I said, "Okay, man. Thanks a lot." And leaving the building, I said, "Boy, am I going to have a story to tell. I met a Beatle." In fact, Paul McCartney had the Beatles. And had no idea that gig was coming my way, because all the New York cats were there. I'm still breaking. But all the cats, I'm lucky that I was on that list. But he hired 3 drummers for the Ram album first. It was me, Donald McDonald, and Abe. No, not Abe. Geez, what's the beautiful drummer that I liked so much? I have to think about it for a second. Anyway, these were 3 of my favorite. One was a Motown drummer.
Mm-hmm.
A little guy. He played his ass off. He was a wonderful player. And Don McDonald was one of my favorite drummers of all times. He died an early death because
Yeah.
The name isn't coming to me. I'll think of it when it's too late. But anyway,
No, it's yeah.
Paul called me about 3 or 4 days after the audition, if you will, and he said, "Hey, this is Paul." I said, "Paul who?" "Oh, we got to play for the other day." "Oh yeah, that guy." So, "I want to hire you for this record I'm going to do in New York. Are you available?" And I said, "Give me a minute to look at my book." And I put the phone down and jumped in the air, threw papers everywhere. Anyway, he wanted to hire me for 6 weeks, 9 to 6, Monday through Friday for 6 weeks. Don't take any other work. I went, whoa, okay.
Man, yeah.
I didn't know what he was going to pay or anything. It was double, triple scale, you know. But that's how it started. So in the meantime, do we have time to do this?
Yeah, of course.
All
Yeah.
right. Meantime, Frank Ippolito from Pro Drum calls me up and he says, "Hey, the Museum of Famous People is shutting down, and they're having an auction next week, or a couple of days from now, and they're selling Ringo's Shea Stadium kit." He said, "I want the snare drum, but I don't need the tom-toms or the bass drum. Are you interested in buying it if I can buy it at the auction?" And I said, "Yeah, but I don't have millions of dollars or anything, but you know, things weren't that valuable in those days. This is
Right.
1970." And so anyway, he said, "Okay, let me see." So he goes to the auction. He gets the festival snare drum. He calls me up and said, "You want the tom-toms? Get on down here. You can have them for $300. I went, "What?" I ran there, put 3 Crispies down, 3 Hundies down, and I took those drums home. And so on the Ram session, when I got called into CBS Studios to start it, I go in there, I got the Beatles drum set and my dad's Leedy Broadway snare drum. It's a mahogany snare drum with engraved hoops and everything. He turned around and he looked in the drum booth there and he said, "Are those your drums?" I said, "Yeah, they're my drums." It freaked them out, you know. And but Spinoza showed up. It was the first day, and then boom, we were in recording, and he just played us a song. There's a song called "Another Day," and that was we cut. You know, and from there it was just. Well, we couldn't wait to get to work because there was nothing like an ordinary session, a New York session in those days. It was nothing like the music we were getting to record with this beautiful man.
Yeah, yeah. I have to tell you, by the way, Robin Flans, the co-author, is watching live, and she's saying, "Hey, Denny, don't give the whole book away." Robin, don't worry. I've played this song before. I promise you, we won't give the whole book away. But we're teasing everybody. We're teasing everybody with what's in this book. That's only just one of the many stories. But I felt it was worth having you tell that because it's such a great story. And Denny, should we play Another Day right now?
Sure.
And that was the first song you recorded, right? That was it.
And a little side note there, you'll hear some like it goes between 3 and 4, 3, 4, and 4 time signatures, you know. So it was a little challenging to come up with some part that really worked with all of that right off the bat, and it was Spinoza and I and Paul too. I mean, it was so easy to come up with the part needed. But there was one part where it sounds like there's horses' hoofs.
Yes.
On it. And what we did was we found a Manhattan telephone directory. It was real thick in those days. And so we got the telephone and I played sticks on it. And that was the horses' hooves you're going to hear in this track.
That's great. That's so great.
Every day she takes a morning bath, she wets her hair, wraps a towel around her as she's heading for the bedroom chair. It's just another day, slipping into stockings, stepping into shoes, dipping in the pocket of her raincoat. It's just another day. At the office where the papers grow, she takes a break, drinks another coffee, and she finds it hard to stay awake. It's just another day. It's just another day. It's just another day. sad, so sad. Sometimes she feels so sad. Alone in an apartment she dwells till the man of her dreams comes to break the spell. Oh, stay, don't stand around. And he comes and he stays, but he leaves the next day. So sad. Sometimes she feels so sad as she posts another letter to the silent fire. People gather around her and she finds it hard to stay alive. It's just another day. It's just another day. It's just another day.
And there are those little changes you were talking about too. Very, very cool, very hip. Did those kinds of things just happen naturally in the studio with you guys? I mean, it wasn't like something Paul said, let's do this here and do that there. It just kind of flowed, right?
The clear slate. You know what's funny? The Brits always think that the Americans, the New Yorkers, are the best, and we think that the Brits are the best. The grass is always greener, kind of thing. So when he came in, he just played us the song. He played his guitar and sang the song to us. So let's go, let's get into it. And we'd do a couple run throughs until we had it. He didn't tell us anything what to play, except for one time on Uncle Albert. I think we talked about this before, but he asked me to come up with a different part that went in and around the vocal. So
Yeah.
it was the drum beat, and it was easy. It just came to me like out of
Yeah.
made sense. And so anyway, yeah. So every day we couldn't wait to get there.
It seems like, when you read the book and you tell the stories, Denny, it was like the perfect storm of all you guys in the room collaborating and just ideas flowing. And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking what it must have been like for Paul. And you kind of talk about this in the book too, like when you reflect later, when there's, some weirdness that happens throughout the course of your time with the band. And when you reflect later, I think you kind of say it must have been really hard for him to come from playing in the Beatles to the pressure of like having his own band now, and everybody's expecting it to be as good as the Beatles. And, and there's like a little competition, right, with him and John and who's going to, come out shining better. And
Sure.
so there was a lot of stuff going on there that you guys had to all navigate through.
Very important time in history. He had a lot of angst from having to break up the Beatles up.
Yeah.
And the way I understood it anyway, if they signed with Alan Klein as George, John, and Ringo wanted to do, it really would have been a disaster for them. And so a judge pointed it out. And so as they were going through this, he never brought that into the studio with us doing Ram. Because it wasn't Wings yet. It was just two sessions, and three of us actually, just Hugh McCracken, Spinoza, and me.
Mm-hmm.
One, two, Little Woman Love we had. Milt Hinton, the old jazz bass player. Milt Hinton played on Little Woman Slap It. And he was like 65 at the time, and we're knackered out. And he was, let's do another take. That's fun, man. So, session musicians and Paul, So yeah.
I was thinking about that, like what it and then you think about the fact that 1970 was he like 28? Is that how old he was at the time? 27, 28?
Yeah.
I mean, think about you were probably around the same age. I mean, just kids, really, when you think about how young you guys were.
Younger.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. It's fascinating to think. And what the other thing that really is fascinating to me is that he had all this, after all those years with the Beatles and all the music that he created, he still had just a ton more, like ready to go.
Yeah, for the Ram album, we did like I Lie Around, Get on the Right Thing, there was a handful of tracks that didn't make it onto the ramp. They came out later on when we formed Wings, and they were all like destined to go to the Beatles, but just time didn't allow, you know.
Yeah. That's interesting. And you know, when I'm sure you've seen Get Back, the documentary.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, I always had a huge appreciation for Paul's talent. You know, as a writer, as a musician, as a singer, and then seeing that movie, my appreciation it like exponentially went up, because he really at that point in their career, he was as great as they all were, and they all were, each guy individually. He was really, you could see the guy that was the glue that was driving it, holding it together at that point.
You know what's really interesting too from the Ram album? I never heard Paul play the bass.
Yeah.
He put the bass on after we left at night. He'd overdub bass parts or whenever it was. I don't know, but I never heard him or any of the tracks full with bass until a box showed up at my apartment on the Dorchester on 68th and Broadway. The doorman said, "Hey, there's a box of records down here for you," and it was the Ram album, and I got to hear the whole thing with the orchestra and the bass and everything, and I was blown away, man. But the first time I played with him, where he was a bass player and I was a drummer, I was just like, I played with a lot of the greats.
Yeah.
Denny, Willie, I mean, all of the great cats. But when you play with Paul McCartney, it was really special because he just goes for the soul, man. He just, what's needed, not what he wants. It's what's
It has to be. And I think of Paul McCartney, like, you know, because he's a phenomenal bass player, but also a pretty good drummer too, you know, a good drummer, and like his time and his feel. And I have to think he's pretty selective about the drummers he plays with. He's, you know, and especially where he played with, you know what it's like too, when you play with the same bass player forever, when you play with a different bass player, it can be a little weird. And for him to have played with Ringo all those years, you know, 8 years of Beatles records, and then 2 years, even before, you know, 10 years of playing with Ringo, to be so comfortable with you, that really says a lot too.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, just the fact that I was the first guy that he hired to make music with him after the breakup of the Beatles. I just like, whoa.
Yeah. That's something, Denny, to just, I mean, I know you're proud of it, but I have to just say it. You got to feel so good about that, man, just to know that. Yeah.
Carved out a little corner of history there.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you were there for the very beginning, and 3 years and 3 records, right? I mean, yeah, that's something to be really, really proud of.
3 tours too. Yeah.
3 tours too.
British, yeah.
And you know, I don't want to give too much of the book away, but I'd only heard of the university tour, but to hear you talk about it, and we won't get into too much detail, Robin, I promise, but it's pretty wild when you talk about it in the book.
Shelley Goldstein, a dear friend of mine, and Shelley and I wrote a piece on the university tour because so little's been told about that. You know, was setting out without a gig and in a bus and a 12-passenger van and a little box truck for the equipment, 2 roadies, and that was it. You know, that tour, we did 10 or 11 shows unannounced, so the press couldn't find us. And so we have a piece that's all ready to go. If somebody would like to give it a home and publish it. So anybody out there, it's really, and Paul read it, and it's a love story about how we traveled as a band. And Linda and the kids and my wife and dogs, and you know, it's insane. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you point out too, you know, like the things that you guys were doing, and that I guess that everybody did, we all did back before, like we had the convenience of cell phones and all that kind of stuff. But it's wild that like that, you know, you could do the things that you did back then, you know, communicate with people and get messages to people and pick up the phone and call somebody and they answer the phone. It's something.
The book was really fun, just to go back through luckily, my wife, the French have this habit. They have these little black leather-bound books with a little gold pen in them. It's like they keep a journal without writing a paragraph. But like today, Denny went to L Street Film Special. Today he went down to the press office. Today he was at Abbey Road. Yesterday he was at Olympic Studios. She kept records of everything and the dates that we were there. So that really came in handy when I was just going through my, I look at this date book that she kept, and plus I kept a book of, when I used to do a session, if I got paid, then I checked it off. Go get your money. But
yeah.
So I had this to refer to, and I would just, my memory is still intact. I just went back to these places, and I just remember all these great details about everything. And it was so huge in my life and so profound in my life that, there's a major portion of the book that's dedicated to Wings and Paul McCartney, of course, because so be it, but there's a lot of other stuff in the book, the before and the after. And,
yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun to reach back into those places. And Robin really helped me because I just dictated the stories to her, and then she put them down on paper. And then we discussed what we wanted to keep and what didn't need to be said. There's a lot that doesn't need to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping it positive and stuff. We tried to be as kind as we could to everybody concerned. I don't like people that take credit for something that hurt somebody else. So.
That's and that's beautiful, Denny. And the book definitely comes across that way too. It's even in the moments where you're talking about some heavy stuff. It's still it's meant to show the positive effects of how you turned things around and came out, the other side. And I made a couple of notes because I realized as I read the book and I don't know if you remember this, you called me one day, and I remember the year because the year was 2005, to tell me that you had a student named Zach Beck.
Oh yeah.
Who was in Boston and wanted to take a tour of the Zildjian factory with his dad. I had no idea. You didn't tell me who he was. You just said, he's my student. He's a really good kid. He's a good guy. His dad's a really good guy. And so him and his dad come, and his dad is Tony Peck, and they come to Zildjian, and we give them a tour. And they happened to be in town for the Rolling Stones, who were playing at Fenway Park a couple of days later. So I later saw them at the Stones show at Soundcheck. And it turns out Zach is Gregory Peck's grandson, and and he looks just like his dad, Gregory Peck, Tony. And they were the nicest people.
And don't forget his mom.
And his mom is Cheryl Teagues. My God. Yeah, she didn't come to Zildjian, unfortunately, but I did meet her at the NAMM show a few months later. I think you brought him to the booth, and they were the nicest people. And thank you for doing that, because they were just, it was just such a great thing to see how excited he was to visit. And is he still playing? Do you keep in touch with those guys?
Living in London though, and he's a male model, but still playing music too. He's quite the drummer, right? At the beginning, he was this little blonde-haired kid. I said, "Nah, this kid, he got a chance," and he really blossomed into it. I've got a knack with some kids. I mean, I don't teach a curriculum. I teach what they need, and get them going so they can enjoy and have fun playing the drums.
Yeah,
really grasped it, and he plays any style. He's like you. He had a drum room with 3 or 4 huge kits of the best W and everything. Cymbals all over the place. Yeah, he was great. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I'm sure he's doing well.
That's great. And it must feel good to know that you were part of his formative years, like you got him along there. It's great. Yeah.
It was Mike Garson's grandson, and he's at SC right now at USC, and he's really good. You're going to hear about his name. His name is Gilbert. Jeez. Oh my God. One of my dear.
I do it all the time.
His first name. Max Gilbert. Max Gilbert. He's a
Max Gilbert
jazz player, and he's really sinking his teeth into rock now. But and he's got some great instructors down there. So I've been blessed with a lot of students that really had talent.
Yeah. Yep. I loved, there are parts in the book too, where you talk about, post Wings, where you moved around to a few different places, settled in LA eventually, which is where I met you. And, you got into working, doing film scores and, the really, really big, legit type stuff. And I love the nod that you gave to our friend Joe Porcaro, rest his soul. Yeah.
In the percussion, one of the first big movies I did was the James Newton Howard film, Waterworld. And there were 7 or 8 guys in the section. It was Emil Richards, Joe Porcaro, Mike Fisher, Peter Lamonic, Michael Fisher, the percussionist. And there were 7 of us anyway. And the straw boss, the guy that handed out the parts, you play this, you get the this tree, the bell tree, and you get this on that. But we used to highlight our parts with a magic marker, a color coded, so we know how to run to the next instrument for that cue. And some cues were like 7 minutes long, big chase scenes and stuff. And Joe was he was the straw boss for that. It was the hardest job, man. He had to pass all of the parts out, make sure every part was covered, and how to write for a lot of percussion. And it was all odd times. And you'd be, you hear the clip. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1. That for me was blowing my mind that I could. He put me on the bass drum, the Grand Casa, because he said the time is so important that the orchestra stay on top of the click. So I swear to God, if you listen to the film Water, you can hear my lips moving.
I know you'd hear my teeth chattering if it were me. When I
in my pants.
I tell you what, when I read that part, Denny, I was sweating bullets for you, thinking about like, oh my God, the pressure you had to feel during that.
Oh, I mean, you can make 1 mistake. You can even make 2 mistakes, 3 mistakes. Pure history. You never do that kind of work again. There's 110 guys there, and the payroll is just.
Yeah. No, but talk about, separating the men from the boys. That's what does it right there. That's
roll drummers are guys that played with Paul McCartney, get a chance to play that kind of orchestral music and classical music in that situation, not many. So I'm really fortunate that I was trained well.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And going back to Paul for a second, and you mentioned this, that, you actually, you never heard him record his bass parts. You heard him later, he had overdubbed them. Yeah. And everything was done without a click track, right? You were the time.
Yeah.
So Paul came in and laid down his bass on top of your track.
Part was very important as to what he came up with. That's the same way he did with Ringo.
I didn't realize that.
I know that a lot of that, he talked about that in private, but he talked about it. He would listen to Ringo's bass drum, and then he would build his bass part around it so that it locked together.
Well, I was going to say, I know that in one instance, like you're saying, the song "Let It Be," the actual track "Let It Be," I think when they recorded the skeleton, like the basic track, I think George was playing bass.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think so. I think Paul was on piano. John was, maybe John. But I know George played the bass, and then Paul later overdubbed it on top of the more completed track. And it's, to me, that's one of the most beautiful bass lines Paul ever played, was to "Let It Be."
Oh yeah, they're all. His bass lines are astounding.
Yeah, I just so much soul. There's just so much. Yeah, and just a phenomenal musician. And just going back, someone had asked this question, and I had wanted to ask you too. I know you got connected with Gretsch pretty early on when you started with Wings. Were most of the records? I know Another Day was done with the Ludwig kit.
Yeah.
But from the time you got the Gretsch endorsement around 71, is that when that happened?
Yeah.
And everything after that was on Gretsch drums?
Yes, all Wayne's period, and I was with Gretsch for 37 years.
I remember, yeah.
And that relationship just, corporate people came in and it just started changing. And I felt like I was getting older and being left out to dry, And John Good and Don Lombardi always said, if you ever want to come over to Drum Workshop, we're right up here, half an hour away from where I live. And so I took them up on it. I came over. And it was a hard decision to make because Fred Gretsch was very kind to me. And I love the instrument so much. I still have my two that I just love so much. There's a couple of sitting in museums too. That the Hard Rock took away from me, and they put them in. I don't know where they are, in some hotel anyway. But they're on display. But I love the Gretsch sound, and my buddy Paul Cooper, who built the drums. I think he just retired, but he really took care of me, even when I wasn't a Gretsch artist any longer. I was part of the family, and if I needed something, he would just make sure that I got a hold of it and I could move on. Like these 64 Gretches that I have, the old round badges, I had them recovered, and I had them because I kept using them. They're great, that I got all original stuff from the factory though. So anything that I changed on them was just original, just updated. That's all it was, and the throw strainer and what have you. But they're still my favorite drums to sit down and play. I love the DW line. I got a kid of DWs over there that you would not believe. It's a little 18-inch bass drum off the floor, suspended. So the beater ball hits it in the middle. And I have Aquarian heads on it. That's the key. And then a 12 and a 15 tom and a big 6.5 metal snare drum. This sounds like a Bonham kit, man.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
But I have so many drums and I can't really. So I'm starting to get rid of some of the stuff that I've collected over the years now.
Yeah, me too. It's funny you say that.
Like Zildjian. Zildjian's really taken care of me over the years.
Yeah. Good. Absolutely. I was just going to say, I totally get what you're saying too, Paul. I love Paul Cooper. I didn't realize he's retiring or close to retiring, but just to your point, I love Gretsch. I've got this Craviato set. I've got a bunch of other drum sets, but there's something really special when you get used to playing Gretsch and you hear that sound. It's hard to completely ever you can never really get away from it completely, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
This particular kit went on the plane with me from New York to Scotland when Paul called me over to have a vacation. And he said, why don't you bring some drums along if you can? And I took this kit along in little fiber cases, a little cymbal bag, and I got to the Glasgow airport, the Prestwick airport there, and they said, oh no, this is some American up there. He wants to bother one of our national treasures, a Beatle, So they wouldn't let me in. And I finally called Paul. I said, here, you talk to him. Hello, this is Paul McCartney. Yeah, I'm expecting. Come on. This is my babies, my babies.
Yeah. Man, they've got some history for sure.
I've done some of the early Wings tracks too.
Right. Yeah.
Used on that. Yeah.
And I was going to say you mentioned this in the book, and I want to be careful not to mention too much more because we want people to go out and buy this book. You can order it now through Hudson. I think it's going to be shipping next week, if I'm not mistaken on that, or maybe.
Yeah, it came out today. The 16th.
Oh, okay, it's out today. Perfect timing. This is the time to order it. But you mentioned there's a live, or maybe it wasn't live, but you do a TV special or did a TV special in April of 1973.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I remember watching that on TV.
Yeah.
And I had to just share that. I remember I had just started playing drums 6 months before that. And it was so exciting to see. This was the first inclination for me of like Paul McCartney, post Beatles, his new band, and probably for a lot of people, maybe the first time they got to see you guys.
Yeah, it was, because that was after the European tour. So we really grown together as a band. But this special was shot by some really good American people, Gary Smith and Dwight Hemme, and we took our time with it at Elstree. And it was really a great, there was a lot of live playing there with a live audience of kids out there. And that's where the first time, actually, I'll tell you the story right after this, but the first time when we did Live and Let Die at the end of the program, the piano was rigged to blow up.
Yes.
And Paul sat like it looked like he was playing the piano, but he was actually 3 or 4 feet back from it. The camera angles were different, but he knew that the piano was supposed to fold in half and fall on the floor, blow in half. And the lid was made out of balsa wood. It went up and over these violin players' heads. They had no idea this blast was coming. We all did. We were informed. But
yeah,
it made the blast a little too big. It swept Henry off of his feet. Henry was standing to the right of Paul, and I was hiding behind my cymbals, man. But this thing, it was a big charge, and the piano collapsed, and the lid, it was a ball of flames. Went over. And they were like squeezing their Stradivariuses, and oh man, it was terrible. But so yesterday, I'm invited up to McCartney's rehearsal space. It's in one of the biggest rooms I've ever been in my life. It's a sound stage, huge. And you can imagine Paul's stadium setup in a room with a room to spare. That's how big it was. Tall ceilings in it. Anyway, they did, as part of the rehearsal, Live and Let Die. And if you've seen the McCartney shows, the explosions progress just like time progresses every day. The explosions, I mean, I was sitting there with Robin on a little couch, 50 yards from the front of the stage. There was nothing between us and the band. And oh my God, it lifts you out of your seat. The explosions were that raucous. And I don't know how many, there's 5 or 6 of them in the song. And so I braced myself. It was the loudest thing I've ever heard. And it was so smoky, and I had to leave. I couldn't breathe. I had to go outside the studio for a couple of minutes to breathe some fresh air and come back. But they just forged ahead, kept playing, playing. So that's the story of the explosions.
That's great. I was so happy yesterday when you told me you were going to actually be going to see Paul.
Yeah.
It's just because, there's so much about the history and the ups and downs of it in the book. And to know that as recently as just yesterday, you got to see your old bandmate. You guys are friends. Everything's cool. That's beautiful.
This morning he texted me. I just gave him a compliment on how much that band has grown. Those guys have been with them 22, 23 years.
Yeah.
But that stage show has grown from the little show that we used to do at the universities, and he just got right back to me. No more than I hit send. He thanks for the great compliment. And, yeah, so we're still on the same page. Just love
That's great. That's great.
Well, that's one left from the original band.
Yeah.
They're all
wow. That's right. Yeah. Boy, oh boy. Yeah. Well, I would bet you that if he's feeling nostalgic and that is probably not lost on him, that it's the two of you guys, Yeah.
I could tell you another story. It's not in the book, I don't think.
Okay, this is a bonus story.
Paul was down to the studio. He was working on his solo album. This months ago. I don't remember how long. But Andrew Watt was producing it. And so it's just Paul, my wife, Monique, and I, the engineer, and Andrew Watt in the control room. And he was playing a track that was very nostalgic. And he looked over at my wife, and she had tears in her eyes. And now he looks at me, and I'm starting to well up. And I'm looking at him, he's starting to well up. And the three of us come in, we have a big group hug, And Andrew Watt is just over there with the engineer. And he said, "Oh my God, this is history." It was really a beautiful moment in time. And, things like losing Denny Lane when we did.
Yeah.
Moments like that. I mean, we have such great, incredible history together. Those early days in the trenches. Not trying to be like the Beatles, trying to be like a band named Wings.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney and Wings, just Wings.
Right. Exactly. I know you're right. And it's almost like the media forced the Paul McCartney part of it, but it was really Wings. It was a band called Wings. Yeah. I'm going to share a photo that I think a mutual friend of ours, Bob Sidlowski, you might know Bob. He used to work for Modern Drummer magazine. Just sent me this picture. Bob, thank you. Natural wood set of Gretsch drums, or not or some sort of a stained
like a walnut.
Walnut finished Gretsch kit.
Yeah, that was a set that they supplied with me in London when Wings was starting to go out on the European tour. I used that on the European tour, and probably the British tour as well. Yeah, beautiful set of drums. Now yeah, they look lighter than the walnut drum. No, that was it. It's just lights. Yeah.
Yeah, the lights. Yep.
And those cymbals, that was a 20-inch crash that I bought at Manny's for $20. And that was an 18-inch K Zildjian from Turkey. And I bought at Manny's for another $20 or $30. I don't know. But yeah, I wish I still had those cymbals.
Me too. I wish you still had them. Is that the leady snare I see in the picture as well?
Oh, that's this one.
It's a Gretsch. Okay.
55. This is a 55. But I had a different throw off strainer on it. But.
Yeah, I can now see the cast hoops on it. Yeah. Yep. Wow, that's a great shot.
Yeah. Look how skinny I was.
You're still skinny. Hey, let's play a little bit more music. I'm going to play a little bit of Too Many People and a little bit of Love is Strange.
Cool.
And again, just some really spectacular drumming masterclass on playing for the song here. Check it out.
The door to coming up with some wild drum parts. And he didn't want anything that was just heard before. So really listen to the music, get inside of it, and come up with something that fits the music, I love that idea.
Yeah. I love your ideas of, like, you do a lot of fills where you might play the tom-toms, but you don't finish it with a crash. And I think that's I think that's such a great effect, the simplicity and the more space you're putting in there, Wow. Very, very cool. Very hip. Here comes Too Many People.
fun. I love that track. Yeah.
Me too. I always loved that track. And so, do you remember on that track, did Paul overdub his bass on that as well? Was that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Playing guitar, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And that was the thing, because he was a multi-instrumentalist. He oftentimes would play the basic track, the rhythm track on a guitar or piano, and then overdub the bass. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, well, this song is such a cool. You and I talked about this yesterday. Love is Strange, and maybe you could set this up with the whole idea of using this beat.
Well, way back at the end of Ram, Paul and Linda went down to Jamaica and they heard this reggae music and fell in love with it. They came up to New York, and I was still in my apartment. We hadn't moved over to England yet, and so this is before Wings, and they played me all of these reggae records. So we all fell in love with it. It was so different. And Paul had the theory that the backbeat was boom, 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 because they had bad stereos and they heard the loudest backbeats on the Motown records that they fashioned their music after that. Which,
wow.
Yeah, it could be.
I never heard. Yeah.
And we wanted to do Love is Strange on the Wings album. First one, I think, Wildlife, I believe. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we started fooling around, and I just tried to come up with a reggae beat that seemed to fit the song, and I got carried away. Carried away with it, and I loved it and had a lot of fun. I get emails from drummers on a regular basis. They say, "Well, how did you come up with that part?" And it was just so much fun. You just throw the snares off and start banging around and put the bass drum where the snare drum would be, move everything upside down, and throw some timbali licks in there, and take have fun with it. It was a ball.
When I used to listen to this, I remember when it came out, and you're right. It wasn't until I started really listening again that I realized you took the snares off and you're just playing the snare as a timbali, as a tom-tom.
Yeah.
And it's really, the cool thing is it's really you. I mean, the whole song revolves around you and Paul's vocal and Linda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here it comes. Here comes Love is Strange. Hey, Denny, is that Joe Lala on percussion on that song?
No, that's Paul.
That's Paul on percussion.
Yeah. He always loved the overdub percussion. We'd get out there, we'd get timbales and congas and bongos and shakers, and yeah, he just loved that. We did a lot of that on the Ram album too.
Yeah.
Playing percussion. He loved playing drums, man. He's a better drummer than I am, for Christ's sake.
I don't know about that. He's a good drummer. Well, absolutely, but come on.
Yeah. I love the way he plays though. Because I mean, the first time I played Maybe I'm Amazed with him, when I listened to the original track that he played drums on, I went, "Oh, that's interesting." And I would try to fashion my parts. I try to, just kind of pay attention to what he played on the originals and try to stick close to it because it was so perfect for the song.
Yeah.
It was an undrummer like lick. Non-drummer would think of that, not a drummer.
Yeah. And he's on the song Band on the Run. He's on the whole record basically, right?
Yeah, playing my parts.
Playing your parts, yeah. Because I always thought that was a unique. I didn't know it was Paul until some years later that he was. I assumed it was you, and then I realized that was the transition time when you'd left, and
we rehearsed it in Scotland up the barn up there, barn with great acoustics. So he ran a 2-track up there, but we were all set to go record it when the bottom dropped out of the bag and Henry left, and with some changes, and I just said I'm out too. And but somewhere in the world there is a 2-track version of that with the original band playing that album, and it was incredible. I would really love to hear that years later.
I'll bet it'll find its way. Those things seem to hasn't. Yeah.
Maybe Paul just didn't want it to be found, and maybe he found it and ate it. I don't know what the story is there.
Yeah. Well, Denny, I know I've kept you a long time. We start a little later than we had planned to, but just looking at all the things you've done, I can't imagine there's anything you haven't done. Is there anything that you still there's things left to do in your mind as musically? I mean,
well, I had my jazz trio for a while, and that was really great. An organ trio. I made 2 recordings with that band, and I really loved that. And now I'm kind of in the production mode. Produced a few records over the years, but now I'm kind of enjoying it a little bit more. I always looked at producing and said, "Oh, you got to listen to the same song. You better like it because you got to listen to the same song 3,000." So I'm crazy about it when you're still playing, but right now I have some health issues that I can't play as much as I'd like to. So I'm working on all of that stuff, but I love producing. And I just produced a record with a friend of mine, John McAndrew from Nashville. It's called Better Side of Me. It's available on Quarto Valley Records. And I play drums on all the tracks. There's 12 tracks.
Okay.
And Nando Perdomo has a studio, and we've become production team. And I love his ears, and he records all the stuff. And he plays every instrument, but he's a really good drummer himself, a Cuban guy from Miami. And so we also did Ram On. We did the tribute to the Ram album with 100 young musicians that chiming in. So that's where our relationship started. And it's really fun to produce music. And we have a young artist from Liverpool, some young girl named Jessie Morell, and we're going to take into the studio and work on some of her music. It's really interesting. So, I just keeping my hand in it.
Yeah.
Killing it.
That's great. I mean, I was going to say, it's like in my mind, you've really done it all. I mean, from starting off, playing jazz clubs in LA to session work in New York to being in Paul's, being in Wings, the first band after the Beatles, and monumental recordings, and then session work now and film scores. It's pretty complete. It's pretty complete bio.
Yeah, I think the
resume
last was to write a book.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is. Exactly. And that leads us to say it's all in this book. We've only really just really just scraped the surface here today with all the great stories and information that's in this book.
So much more.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. In fact, I took a copy of the book up to the rehearsal yesterday for Paul to read. So I can't wait till he gets a chance to sit. I don't know how this man lives. I mean, with the what's going on in his life and the details that must be on his plate every day. I mean,
yeah,
I would get time to eat a meal, let alone sit down and read a book. But I'm sure I'll get reports. I did an interview on a Beatles channel or something a couple of days ago, and it was a fun interview with a guy named Andy, Kyle, and Beatle Tony. I think they're Beatle influencers, and it's just a lot of fun, and it was so good that I actually put it on Facebook and I sent it over to Paul, and he actually sat down and listened to this interview that took an hour.
Wow.
And he loved it. He got right back to me. He said, "Wow, that was really good. Keep doing this,
Oh, that's great.
I just wanted to be transparent about what I'm saying about the band and the old days. And he appreciated it. And I just loved it.
That's great, man. That's great. Like I said, I love a happy ending. You know, it's, you take us through the ride throughout the book, and, you know, it's,
Yeah, right.
yeah. And Denny, I want to just say, you know, as your friend, I have so much love and respect for, you know, what you've done in your life, and you're here today because you know, you really got yourself healthy and feeling good. And I know your wife, I know Monique is a big part of that. And yeah.
Spirituality is a big deal, you know.
Yeah.
I really think that we all need a little bit more, especially in troubled times like today. Spirituality has saved my life. I'm sure of that, you know.
Yeah. God bless you, brother. Man, I hope I get to see you soon.
You.
Yeah. Thank you for being here today. Everybody, a big hand for Denny Seiwell, the legendary. Please order this book. You'll thank me later. And Denny, I'll put all that information, some links in the show notes for everybody to check out all your other work. And thanks for watching, everybody. A big hand for Denny. And we'll see y'all real soon.
Thank you so much, John.
Thanks, Denny. I love you too, brother. Hang with me for 1 second. The month of September, I have a back to school special. And for the entire month, and there's still a couple of weeks left, if you buy a Live from My Drum Room hoodie, right here in my hand, one of these really cool hoodies, for $50, which includes shipping, you'll get a free t-shirt, $25 value for free. Hoodie for $50, small through extra large, $55 for a double extra large. And this is for U.S. orders only. And again, that includes the shipping, $50 and $55. You get the free t-shirt, U.S. orders only while supplies last. And a reminder that 100% of the proceeds go toward a scholarship I've created with the Percussive Arts Society, PAS, that allows a lucky recipient to attend PASIC, which is the Percussive Arts Society International Convention in Indianapolis. Thanks to your generous support, that's what this scholarship is all about. You can visit www.livefrommydrumroom.com for information on placing an order. It's all there. It's pretty simple. It's all done through Venmo. So again, visit my website, www.livefrommydrumroom.com. And if you have any questions, you can email me at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com. So please, thanks to everybody who's supported it so far. When I put this up a week or so ago, I had a flurry of orders, and I appreciate that, you know, the support. Thank you. And I know the people, my friends at the Percussive Arts Society, appreciate it as well. Cool. And, you know, it's getting to be that time of year when you're going to want a hoodie. You're going to need this. Unless you live in a really warm place all year round, it's very handy. All right, that's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave a comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can also download the podcast on all podcast platforms. A reminder that Live from My Drum Room t-shirts and hoodies are available, and 100% of the proceeds go toward a scholarship I've created with the Percussive Arts Society. Information on ordering Live from My Drum Room merch is in the show notes, and you can also email or text me with any questions at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com. Thanks to everyone who's bought a t-shirt and a hoodie so far. You're supporting a great cause, and I really appreciate it. And remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.